Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to this Standards Committee meeting and welcome to everyone watching online. I'm sure there are many hundreds of people who are just switched on to YouTube to see this meeting. Before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings will work and to confirm that officers attending remotely are able to hear and see proceedings if we have any. I don't mean if we have any proceedings, I mean if we have any officers attending remotely.
Thank you, Chair. We don't have any officers attending remotely this evening, so I'll just get into the procedure. Live streaming, this meeting is being audio recorded and live streamed to YouTube. The recordings will be available via the NHDC YouTube channel and ModGov. If a member wishes to speak, they should use the speak button located on the microphone unit in front of them. The microphone will light up green and the chair will be alerted of your request to speak. When the chair invites you to speak, your microphone will be made live and will turn red, at which point you can speak and you'll be heard in the room and on YouTube. Voting, when requested to vote, voting will be via the yes, no, abstain buttons on your microphone unit. Details of how members voted will be shown on the screens around the room and the result will be visible on the YouTube stream. Are there any questions? No, thank you. Back to you then, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item number 1 is apologies for absence. And they've been received from Councillor Simon Bloxham, who is being substituted by Councillor George Davis. Apologies for absence have also been received from Parish Councillor Rebecca Elliott and from Councillor James Denslow. Are there any further apologies? Claire.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Manchitandi is on holiday in Wales, so could I give her apologies, please?
Yes, you can always retract them if she walks in the door.
Thank you.
Any minute now.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Councillor Sean Prendergast sends his apologies and Councillor Raj Bakar is running late, so I hope she will appear soon.
Okay. Item 2 is minutes of the meeting a very long time ago on the 19th of October 2021. I'd like to propose that we take as read and approve as a true record the minutes of the meetings of the Standards Committee of that date. Can I have a seconder?
Well, Chairman, as I think I'm the only other person along with you that was actually at that meeting, I'm
Right.
very happy to second your minutes.
Hadn't checked that. Okay, thank you very much, Claire. Any comments about the minutes of the meeting that only Claire and I attended? Okay, in which case we're going to vote to approve those minutes. Does that mean that only Claire and I are going to vote to approve those minutes? How exciting. All right, thank you very much then. Let's do it.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. That motion's... Chair, that motion's carried.
Brilliant. Somebody take a photo of that. Please. Okay. Notification of other business, none has been advised. Item 4 is Chair's announcements. And of course, I need to welcome I would have welcomed James to his first meeting, and Raj, when she gets here, should be welcomed, but also Ralph, of course, who is new to the council and this committee, and he's very welcome. And I don't think there's anybody else who's a member of this committee who, are you new, Val? In which case, can I please welcome you, Val, to this committee as well. The only other thing I wanted to mention by way of Chair's announcements is that some of us earlier today were at the funeral service for Gary Grindle. And I just wanted to say it was a lovely funeral, a marvellous service. I think his family enjoyed it, if you can enjoy it, very much in terms of the amount of love and outpouring from the local community. And it was a really good occasion, as good as it could possibly be. I wanted to refer to that because we are all missing Gary very much. I I think that's the only other announcement I have. Item 5 is public participation, of which there is none. Item 6. Oh, sorry, I should also have mentioned, of course, that Jeanette's not able to be with us. Jeanette Thompson, because she's unwell and is receiving treatment and will hopefully be back in a couple of weeks. But we're very happy to have Isabel Allergies here with us to guide us through the long and complicated meeting and to take the standards matters report for us. And it was only when I turned to you then that I remembered, of course, that we are missing Jeanette. Okay, so Isabel, over to you for item 6, standards matters.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is from the monitoring officer, and as the chair has kindly pointed out, is unable to be with us this evening. So I'm stepping in today. As you can see, the recommendation is for the committee to note the contents of the report, including the recommendation at 2.2, which is to consider the points made at 8.3 to 8.6, and to review the complaints handling procedure as at its meeting on the 23rd of March 23. There is also a further recommendation for the committee, which is to note the government's response contained within Appendix A, which is the response to the Committee on Standards in Public Life on local government ethical standards. So what I intend to do today is just highlight some key points to members in relation to the report. I won't go through the whole thing. So in terms of volume of complaints, you will note from the report that by the end of 2021, we had received 52 complaints in total, with 24 from one person. Since the beginning of 2022, we have received 24 complaints, 19 of which are from the same individual. Moving on to the recommendation regarding the complaints handling procedure. So on the 19th of October 21, an updated procedure was approved by the committee. The committee will note at 8.5 of the report that there is a compare and contrast between our approved complaints handling procedure and the subsequent guidance provided by the LGA. The recommendation at this stage is to allow the current procedure to remain in its current state, given that it's only been operative for 7 months, and to allow a review to take place as to its effectiveness after 1 year, which is the recommendation at 2.2. And then just to highlight the training, so induction training was provided to newly elected members and re-elected members as per the Code of Conduct. 12 out of 17 of the councillors that were required to attend made the session. Parish councillors were also provided with separate training, and the recorded session will be made available for those that were unable to attend. So those are the key takeaways that I wanted to highlight within the report, and I'm at your disposal should you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isabel. Does anybody have any questions? David.
Thanks, Judy. This individual who's put in all of these complaints, it would appear from the report as well that most of them are no further action, not enough evidence, etc., etc. We have a procedure for a vexatious complainant. Are we able to use that in this on this particular individual? Because it seems he's taken up an awful lot of time and resources for this council with no good reason.
To reply to that, I'm going to bring Ruth in to see, because I missed your light, to see what you wanted to ask as well, Ruth.
I was actually going to ask quite a similar thing, but I was just going to make the observation that the vast majority of these complaints come from one community council, Great Ashby. I note in the report that there are far more parish councillors and district councillors, so you'd expect to have a higher proportion of complaints. I welcome the fact that we're offering training to parish councillors, but I do wonder whether there's a way of widening that and how good a take up it is. And I also was going to ask in this public forum what is being done, because this is taking up a lot of officer time. And I noticed that most of them warrant no further action. It's not the appropriate clearly not the appropriate place for dealing with whatever the issues are. And is taking up a lot of time and costing us a lot of money. And as far as I can see from the table, the only complaint that has been referred for investigation is down the bottom, is one against a district councillor. So I was going to ask a very similar thing. What can we do?
Claire, sorry, can you just wait for one more? Okay, we'll come back to you then.
Brilliant.
Isabel.
Thank you, Chair. So we have obviously the complaints handling procedure for code of conduct complaints, and I can show you there is a link within the report which provides at the first appendix that if a complainant is vexatious or repetitive, then we are able to say no further action. I think the difficulty is if a complainant registers a complaint in relation to a code of conduct matter, we have to triage it because there may well be a valid complaint there. So I suppose the difficulty is sometimes we have to put some time and resources into the matter just to say no further action in case there is no further action, or to say it's a repetitive complaint, if that makes sense. But I know equally there's a complaints procedure for non-code of conduct matters for vexatious persons and individuals, which is separate, that we are also able to utilise. But I suppose one of the issues that we do have is the fact that we do have to do this triage when a complaint is registered, even if it's just to say that there is no further action because it's repetitive sort of thing.
So there is still a triage process at the moment that has to be gone through. David, did you want to come back on that?
Yes, please. So the standard complaint procedure where we are able to say to somebody, we're not going to take any more complaints from you. And I know we've done it before on at least 2 occasions that I know of with 2 different individuals. So that is a different process, is it, to this process, or can we use that same one?
So we are able to utilise that on some occasions. It's a case-by-case basis, so that is something we are able to utilise in certain circumstances, yes. But I suppose with the complaints handling procedure, a lot of the time we do have to triage the complaints first.
I think this has been raised by so many people that we do need to have it looked at as thoroughly as possible. I think I've made that pretty clear to Isabel before the meeting. So if it can be looked at, to look at the least painful and most fair way of dealing with that, that we can discuss it on the next meeting, that would be really helpful. Nicholas.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm very conscious, having been involved in a number of these complaints, certainly from my perspective, I'm confident that they are dealt with in an appropriate way, appropriate in the sense, as Isabel has just said, anybody's entitled to complain. Most people don't. Those who do may limit their desire to complain to just, an occasional complaint. This individual, the same for both chunks of complaints, has chosen to exercise his right, in my opinion, independently, to excess. Having done that, it is plain to me that each complaint is properly and thoroughly considered and triaged, as Isabella said, under the complaints handling process. In parallel with that, as you may know, there's a separate mechanism which enables the authority, if it wishes, to exercise its discretion over communications with individuals in general. And I think that is open to the council in addition to the process for considering complaints where they may have merit. I would just add, there's a further factor in this, time-consuming and expensive, though plainly it is. In my knowledge, 1 or 2 of the complaints made in this instance have had some justification, albeit in a rather limited way. Nevertheless, they've had some validity. And I think it's important in my opinion, as an independent person, not to lose sight of the potential for some justification on occasion. It is a fine balance, but certainly the numbers of complaints certainly have exceeded anything that I've been familiar with over the years. And I'm confident that they are dealt with in a wholly appropriate and fair manner that's both fair to the complainant with regard to the numbers of complaints and also fair to those about who have complaints have been made.
Ralph, is it on the same issue?
Chair. Could I just ask, obviously, we're all very concerned about the situation in Great Ashby. 24 of the complaints, 19 of which are coming from the same person. I was just wondering, and this is sort of directed towards the monitoring officer, whether or not in the table on 8.2 going forward in the future, so that the committee is able to better understand the repetitive nature of this, whether or not we could include the date, the month and year, because as I said, I think it would really help us understand the nature of these and the timeline.
For the meeting, Ralph.
Yes.
And I think we've agreed that that would be a welcome addition.
Yes, thank you for that. And I'll take that away and discuss that with the monitoring officer upon her return, as it will be her biannually report. So the next one, I'm sure she can do something to factor that in.
Brilliant, thank you. Claire.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Right. The thing I would like to address is training and the code of conduct training. And I note in point 8.7 that there are 2 councillors who didn't attend the mandatory training from last year, which was supposed to be, all of us were supposed to go through. And I also note that in 8.9, that out of the 17 councillors who were elected in May this year, only 12 have attended the code of conduct training. I do declare that I went to the code of conduct training because I actually find refresher training very valuable to all members. But what concerns me is, have group leaders been informed of who is on the naughty step and needs to go to the training, and what other issues, how can we encourage those members from whichever party they are? I'm not aware if any of them are mine, because if they are, I would be encouraging them to be there. But to know that if group members, if group leaders don't know, is that because I haven't got any members, or it's because they haven't told me that it is my members?
Your one new member this year definitely attended the training.
I know he did, and I'm very proud of that. But I know that I had some re-elected members, and I don't know whether they've because they, again, rules are rules. They should have also attended as a refresher when they were re-elected. So I don't know whether they've done that, whether they are supposed to be looking at the video. So I would like that information, perhaps.
So we're not going to name names this evening, but can we make sure that group leaders are made aware of who they should be speaking to about these issues?
I don't know what the sanctions are, that if you don't attend the code of conduct, which I thought we'd all agreed as in the Constitution it was mandatory, how we get around this.
Definitely circulate that to group leaders, and there will be a time limit to complete that provided as well, because it is a requirement of the code, as you've pointed out quite rightly. So it does need to be completed, and yeah, I can certainly arrange for that, Councillor Strong. Thank you.
That we do have a 6-month rule that says you have to turn up to a meeting once every 6 months, otherwise you get barred. But that is there anything, again, that maybe monitoring officer want to look at what sanctions should be taken? Because I'm afraid I find it not acceptable that we have a mandatory code and members that haven't been through that training. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, we all agree that the code of conduct is vital when we're carrying out our duties as a councillor. I just want to reference 8.9, which is the time limit to complete for those members who didn't attend. Could I just ask, what is exactly the time limit for those members to complete that training? And if they fail to attend, if there is non-attendance, what remedies are in place to ensure that they are, of course, educated and ensuring that they're following the code of conduct?
So it would be a reasonable time provided by the monitoring officer when the monitoring officer asks the those individuals that have not attended the training, I'm sure that that will be something for the monitoring officer within their role to determine. So I wouldn't want to provide that deadline myself, because that's not for myself to set. In terms of the second part of your question, it is a requirement of the code. So not following it would be a technical breach of the code.
Do we need a standards monitor? Do we need a, I was thinking about, they keep losing them in Parliament, so maybe we should employ one of those to help us here. Sorry, I'm not being political at all. Ruth.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that, I was thinking, sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. What was I going to say? On the training issue, if it's, we've agreed it's mandatory, and that we need to ensure that everyone does it. We've also talked about town and parish and community councillors, and we've observed that many complaints come from them. Do we have any idea how many of them have completed our training? Do we get those figures back from parish clerks? Is there any merit in doing so? And is there any way of kind of cutting off at the pass some of these large volumes of complaints? I mean, I appreciate it's one individual and it may not be that easy to solve, but I do wonder whether, certainly from my own experience, sometimes people have been unaware that it's better, it could be encouraged, like where it says, there's one where it says local resolution suggested, can we do more of that to help parish and town and community councillors resolve things locally? What is our role as a district in that, and how much support can we give them? Because I know we have limited resources.
I suppose we do offer training to parish councils, and we did have good attendance at the 2 sessions that we provided to the 2 individual parish council sessions. So, that's the sessions that we provided, which were live. It's also been made available for them offline as well, so they can watch it at their leisure through the Grow Zone. So we made that available to them. But in terms of the parish councils, there's not really a great deal we can do in terms of forcing their hand to go to the training, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the resources are there and it is available. Should they wish to watch it if they weren't able to make the training. But we did have we did have members from the parish councils attend both sessions, and we had some good participation too.
But we have no powers to make it mandatory for parish councils to attend our training. That's the bottom line. Okay. Ralph, go on.
Apologise, Chair. Just on local resolutions, it's of course, great when these individuals buy in and they do attend and they do work. But of course, we've just said here that they're, individuals aren't required to attend them and they can, flout them, so to speak. Is it something that the council is going to look at to actually ensure that we are increasing our cooperation and communication with the parishes on the code of conduct and trying to actually, make these resolutions a little bit more enforceable?
Make them enforceable, Ralph, but we engage considerably with the parish councils. Actually, I've got Nicholas wanting to come in as well.
I just wanted to say in relation to there are 2 strands to this. One is compliance by members of this authority. I suggest if people are not attending training and it is mandatory, the remedy lies within this committee. It's a matter for monitoring officer at your instruction to tell you who has or hasn't attended, and for this committee to take action as it sees fit. That would be the remedy to that. In relation to parishes, as people have said, they're all separate autonomous entities. This authority does a lot, in my experience, to encourage them to take part, but horses to water. And most parish councillors, to my knowledge or my experience, are pretty dedicated and committed and understand how they should and shouldn't conduct themselves. It's a small number inevitably that finds itself in some sort of difficulties, but the numbers are small. Having said that, given there are 40-odd parishes in North Herts, it's inevitable that numbers of people involved potentially in complaints is greater than those on this authority, which only has 49 members.
Point. Thank you, Nicholas. Okay, are there any, sorry, did you want to come back as well? No. Okay, are there any other points that people want to make that are new, David?
Just coming back on the section we haven't covered yet, the complaints handling procedure review. I note from the report there that there are a couple of bits that we could add to the procedure. However, looking at them, I don't think there's anything actually earth-shatteringly desperate to do. So I think that recommendation that we come back in is absolutely fine. And the other bit was about the national standards matters, and a government department by whatever set of initials it's going under this particular week hasn't given a date yet or anything. I don't suppose there's any update on that. No,
With their own standards issues.
Yeah.
All right,
thinking
then.
up a new name. Thank you.
In which case, can we move to the recommendations? I'll remind you what they are, so I remind me what they are. They are that the committee notes the content of the report. The committee considers the points made in 8.3 to 8.6 and reviews the complaints handling procedure at its meeting on the 23rd of March next year. And the committee considers notes the government's response to the Committee on Standards in Public Life on Local Government Ethical Standards at Appendix A. I would like us to be able to take those votes as a single block, but if there's anything controversial, obviously we will split them out. Can we move to a vote on those? So we do the voting, Isabel? Yep. Oh, a seconder.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you. That was me getting all keen. All right, so let's move to the voting thing with your buttons now. Hopefully there'll be more votes than there were for the last vote. It was. I hope somebody did take a picture.
Thank you, Chair. That motion is carried.
Thank you very much indeed. I think that concludes our business this evening. And good luck to anybody who's going on to any further meetings tonight. I'm personally not. So thank you. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, everybody.